So this past week, I took a short vacation, took off Sunday afternoon and went down to the Cape. And was pleasantly surprised that I didn't have to do any yard cleanup at my mother's house. She lives kind of right where the tornadoes were a couple weeks ago, but the landscaper beat me to it. Shucks. So my goal this week was to do nothing, to be lazy, and to enjoy that. And so I did my best. The mornings were pretty leisurely. I would sleep late, and I'd take some time, go down to the coffee shop and take my time with a coffee and a muffin and read the newspapers. Well, all right, so I went to the app of the newspapers to read the articles. And normally, in my day-to-day chaos, I'll scan the headlines and get the brief summaries of the news, but that's pretty much the extent of my reading. But I figured this time I had the time, I was going to actually read the articles and the commentary, so on and so forth. Shouldn't have done that. They weren't the most uplifting reading I think I've done. And certainly it wasn't just on my vacation. I'm thinking here we are on a beautiful day in southeastern Massachusetts, and waking up to today's headlines are even more glum. Almost like they're coming from a bad movie or bad TV show. We can understand the words we heard in the first reading today. They kept echoing this past week when I was reading the news that I thought was bad then. Vanity of vanities. All things are vanity. There's so many problems in our world, our country, in our community. So many issues. So much division and violence and discord. And the more we try to fix them, the worse things seem to get, and the more divided we become. In this morning's Office of Readings, part of the Liturgy of the Hours that I have to pray as a priest, there was an ancient letter that stated, quote, "When evil days are upon us, and the worker of malice gains power, we must attend to our own souls and seek to know the ways of the Lord. In those times, reverential fear and perseverance will sustain our faith and will find restraint as well. Provided that we hold fast to these virtues, the author wrote, and look to the Lord, then wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and insight will make joyous company with them." Close quote. That's what St. Paul is basically telling us in our second reading. Think of what is above, not of what is on earth. We have plenty of evidence that hate destroys. There's nothing new in that. The opposite of that, we hold, is love. But a serious love. A love that sustains life. A love that allows life to flourish. I'm not talking about the warm fuzzies, although those are nice and needed in life too. But this real love that comes from the core of one's being, that flows from one's identity as a child of God. This love requires commitment to the Lord and commitment to others, those we know, those we don't, and even those who seek to destroy us. Love involves an openness to change, to conform ourselves more to perfect love and truth and goodness and holiness. This love involves engagement with others, but an honest engagement, one that supports, one that challenges. Love is very simply a way of life, and we remind us so often that's the Christian way of life. St. Paul is telling us in our second reading today that the life of the Christian is meant to be different from others, even as we live in the very same world and deal with the very same problems. Our faith is about a lived relationship with Jesus Christ, one in which we seek to unite our hearts and minds to His. And through this process of conversion, we are transformed. We live life true to our identity and are able to reach our true potential. At the same time, we become stewards of the Lord's love, His graces, and gifts. And as stewards, we're meant to utilize these to continue His mission of sharing His message and love with the world, a world that so desperately needs to hear it. Often this word stewardship gets associated with financial contributions, and that's certainly part of it. And you go to our website, and there's stewardship is tied to electronic giving. It's in the bulletin where we list the amounts we received in the collections. And again, that is part of it. There's a reason why our collection is taken up at the time we call the offertory, because the money represents the utilization of our skills and talents and our sacrifices as part of our commitment to our family and our community. It represents an offering of ourselves, and we're uniting ourselves with the gifts of bread and wine as a sacrifice of thanksgiving to God. However, stewardship involves more than that. It also involves our time, not just our time at work and our time for others, but our time for God. We know time is very precious and limited. And the stewardship of time challenges us to reflect on all the Lord offers us and to ask ourselves, do we take time to thank God? Do we take time for that relationship in our own lives? It's one of the greatest challenges in the spiritual life, making sure that faith doesn't become routine, something that we do at a certain time on a certain day, or as a way to kill time. This past July, the liturgy emphasized relationship. Through our relationships with others, we encounter the Lord and grow in our relationship with Him. As a people of thanksgiving, a Eucharistic people, we need to make a commitment of time for the Lord, certainly at Mass, but also taking some time of quiet throughout the week to be with Him. It doesn't matter how much time, what really matters is the quality of that time we spend with Him. Stewardship also needs to be understood in terms of our talent, serving God and our neighbor. This is more than a social or moral responsibility, but as an act of thanksgiving to God. We often use the term family of faith to describe the church. It reminds us that we are not just a collection of individuals. We're bound together in a special relationship with one another and with the Lord. In our families at home, each member has a chore or a list of chores that need to get done. The exact chores are dependent upon the person's skill and ability. All of these chores contribute to the life of the family and its growth, regardless of how big, how time-consuming, or how, quote-unquote, important. Well, so it is with the family of faith. We all have to contribute to the life of our family of faith. It could be helping with a parish event or activity. It could be assisting with faith formation of our children or adults as catechists or helping in the office. It could be working to reach out to those in need through St. Vincent de Paul or our Social Concerns Committee. It could be assisting at the liturgy through altar serving or lecturing, our ushers, or our music ministry. It could be recognizing a gift or talent that you have that could serve a need in the parish that's not being met. And it could be supporting all of this through our time of prayer, a daily rosary, or a holy hour for the parish and those in need. The Christian life is characterized by love and by thanksgiving to God, even in the most mundane of tasks. In living such a life, we are drawn deeper into the mystery of God, who is perfect love itself. And through that mystery, we become transformed. We become the signs and instruments of the Lord at work in the world, giving hope and encouragement to all those that we encounter.